Sometimes you just need an environment to have your product animation take place in, and that will increase the production value by a lot. So in this tutorial I'm going to show how to make a kitchen the easy way without actually making everything from the kitchen. If you don't want to make a kitchen, no problem, you can also get all the assets on Gumroad for a small price. Link is in the description, so let's get started. So first things first, we're going to make some cabinets. So I'm going to press Shift A, add a cube, and here it is. Well, I'm going to scale it down and I'm going to bring it all the way over here. And let's go into this mode so we can actually see what we're doing. Place it against the wall, maybe make it a bit thinner, something that a cabinet should be looking like. So I'm going to apply the scale, go into edit mode, press on 3, select this part, press I, G and Y, bring it inwards just a little bit, press E, bring it inwards just a little bit, scale it, because I don't want it to be entirely straight, press I once again, E, bring it outwards, I once again, and scale it just a little bit like this. And now we've got something that looks like a cabinet, and I think it's pretty cool. Shift S, cursor to selected, let's make a handle for this as well. So I'm going to add a cube, scale it down, bring it to the front, right over here. Then I'm going to make a loop cut right in the middle, select all of this, and delete it by deleting the faces, pressing on X. Then I'm going to add a mirror modifier right here in the modifier section. Mirror, and this should work out fine. Now I'm going to take this, scale it on the Y axis, scale it on the Z axis, bring it outwards just a little bit and make sure that it looks like the frame beginning. So I'm going to take this, G and X, bring it towards this side, add a loop cut right here, scoop it over and take this, E, and bring it towards this side. Now I think this is around the right length for this, so I'm going to bring it closer to this part. And now all we have to do is bring it down, add a bevel modifier, bevel, and increase the segments for this, like so. Now that looks pretty cool. I do think it's a bit too big on the Z height, so I'm heading over into edit mode. With Alt-C, I'm going to select all of these, G and Z, bring it down until it looks something like this. I still think that this part is a bit too broad maybe, so I'm going to select all of this, Alt-C, take this, G and Y, bring it towards this side, and now it looks correct. Then I'm going to take this, convert to mesh, and this will apply all the modifiers. Then I'm going to select the cabinet, go to the modifiers, add a bevel, increase the segments, add normals, smooth by angle, ignore the sharpness. And this is what it looks like right now. Select the handle, then select the cabinet, Ctrl J, and now it's all part of the same object. Add a modifier, array this, and increase the amount. Something like this should work out fine for what we are trying to do. I think it could be placed upwards just a little bit. Now I'm going to add some wooden planks right here that we can add and stack all the way on the wall. So I'm going to press Shift A, add a cube, bring it all the way over here. S and X, S and Z, make it smaller. Let's take this and bring it all the way to the back side of the wall as well. Let's take this and bring this to the back side of the wall as well. Now array it, array 3 times on the Z axis, like so, and let's increase the amount. And now we've got something interesting going on here as well. I will select this part, Shift S, cursor to selected, Shift A, add a cube, let's bring it down, scale it on the Z axis, maybe just a little bit bigger, Z axis, and this will be like a stove. Press I, bring this inwards, and scale it just a little bit. And now this should work out fine for what we are trying to do. Maybe we can even add a bevel modifier once again. So next, we are going to select all of this, let's add some loop cuts. Let's add some loop cuts right over here. And now we can select all of this. Ctrl A to apply the scale. So press I, bring it down. G and Y, maybe a little bit towards this side. E, bring it down. And this will be the place where our water faucet will be located. So I'm going to add a cylinder right over here and start from here. E, Z, E, S. Just make a random shape over here that kind of looks like it could be the beginning of a water faucet. So let's bring this upwards. Like so, press E, and now we probably want to do this. So click on the dash icon so it's isolated in its own part. Press on 3, place the 3D cursor like somewhere over here. Go to the spin tool and set this to X direction. Now we're going to make the rest of the water faucet like this. And this should probably be minus 180. And then we can play around with the center of the Y, something like this. Let's press I, E, bring it inwards, scale it just a little bit. And it's a bit underwhelming, I believe. I'm going to take this, press Ctrl B, just for one bevel segment, and then go all the way over here. Ctrl plus until we reach the entire top of this. G and Z, bring it upwards. And now I'm going to select this edge and scale it inwards just a little bit. Now I'm going to add some loop cuts right over here until we get some squares. And I will select a couple of these squares, approximately 16, and apply the scale first, Ctrl A, apply the scale. Loop tools, circle, and I'm going to deselect flatten right over here, so it follows the shape of the cylinder. Press E, bring it outwards, loop tools, flatten, and now this will be flattened. E, S, scale it inwards, E, S, scale it outwards, something like this, and bring it all the way over here. We can also bring it towards this side a little bit more, scale it down like so. Then I will make some more loop cuts right over here. And now I've selected all of these faces, and I will once again select circle, make sure it follows the radius. This time I'm going to press I, scale it inwards, something like this, press E, bring it outwards, loop tools, flatten, and now it looks like this. Then I'm going to add a subdivision surface modifier, add an extra loop cut right over here. We can also add a loop cut right over here. So now this kind of looks like a water faucet, at least for in the distance. This is going to work out fine. One more thing we can make is an electrical socket. So let's go over here. Let's place our 3D cursor, hold shift, right mouse click. Let's add a cube, scale it on the y-axis, G and Y. Let's add some loop cuts over here until we get some squares like this. Then I will select this part, press I. Then I will select this part, I, inset it to around the same range. Then select all of this. Loop tools, circle. Now we've got two circles. They are a bit too big, so I'm going to set this to individual origins, scale it down, and E inwards. And I'm going to select all of these edges and bevel it, and this will destroy the mesh, by the way. Now I'm going to make a loop cut right over here, and select this part as well, scale it upwards, then only take this edge and scale it upward just a little bit. Now let's add a subdivision surface modifier, like this, and add some extra loop cuts to support this entire structure. Let's select this entire part and add a bevel modifier. This will make sure that this part is rounded out as well. So let's increase the amount of segments, to decrease the amount of the bevel in the first place. Now, one thing that we should do is select this cube, apply the scale, go over here, add a loop cut, select this entire surrounding area. So click on 3 for the face select mode, hold Alt, select this entire area, Alt E, and extrude these faces along normals, like so. Let's add a bevel modifier to this as well. Increase the amount of segments and decrease the strength of this just a little bit. So this is what it looks like right now. All we have to do is texture all of this, and then I'm going to bring in the glasses. We're going to populate this entire area and make sure that this environment looks good enough for the final product animation render. So let's first select these. I'm going to select this specific board that we already textured in the previous part. I'm going to copy the material to the selected, go over here, View, Cube Projection, and this should work out fine for the distance that we're working in. Now, one thing I want to do is go over into the camera, go to Viewport Display and select the Passepartout. Now we can see what's in the frame and what's not. I also want to change the depth of field already. So I'm going to select depth of field and select our blender, because the things in the background don't really have to be noticeable that much. We're going to decrease the amount of f-stop in here, maybe to 1.8, and this will blur out the entire background, so it doesn't have to be the best background in the world. We just have to make it look good enough so we can use it in a render. And this is a very important lesson. We always want to save time, because 3D is a very time-consuming process and you only live once, and I don't have time to waste to be meticulous about things that are going to be unnoticeable anyways. So with every project that you do, ask yourself the question, how can I save time on this? How can I bring this from 7 days to 1 day? How can I bring this from 3 hours to 1 hour? And it will greatly help you think about a way in 3D to save your own time and thereby be able to create more that's actually useful. So I'm going to select this board now, and I will bring this up, go into the shader editor, click on New, Ctrl-Shift-T, and I will bring in marble 12, which is the white marble. It is on Polyhaven once again. Select all, Cube Projection, maybe it's a bit too big, so let's go to the UV editor. Something like this already looks a little bit better. So I'm going back into the shader editor, and I will decrease the scale of the displacement to 0.01. Let's start with the water faucet first. I'm going to select it, I'm going to press on 0 because this is what we are actually seeing, so I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Increase the metallic, decrease the roughness, and make it a bit more of a grayish color. And what do you have? It looks like a water faucet. I'm not going to spend any more time on this. What I am going to do is going to material and call this simple metal. And then I will go into this material right here, select it, then take this entire part, Ctrl plus, and give it that very same material. Ctrl I, make a new material, give this another material. Maybe it's a bit too dark for this area, so I'm going to select this, copy this, and make sure it's a bit brighter, like so. Let's go over here into this material, select it, add new, delete this. Let's add a glass BSDF into the surface. And I'm actually not going to do anything with this, maybe increase the roughness just a little bit. Ctrl I, plus, new material, assign. Let's make this black and increase the metallic, decrease the roughness. And this looks pretty good. I'm heading over into the cabinets. And by clicking L while holding our mouse over this object, L, it will select this object that at first was separated. So I will assign a new material to this, assign, give it the simple metal material, plus, and Ctrl I to select everything else, assign, and now we can do the cabinets as well. So first let's do the wall. So I'm going to select the wall, plus, new, let's add a noise texture right over here, plug it into a bump height, and plug this into the normal. It will be way too much, obviously. Ctrl A to apply the scale, Ctrl T, and set the object into the vector. Now I will increase the scale by a whole lot, 500, and then I will decrease the strength of this to a very low number. And what we can also do is go over here, add another noise texture, bring this vector into the vector of the noise texture, vector into the roughness, add a color ramp, let's see what it looks like. It's a bit too big, so I'm going to set it to 1 and increase the detail, maybe increase the roughness just a little bit. We can pronounce this by using the color ramp, something like so. And this means that we will have some areas that are a bit more reflective than others. And it's already starting to look a bit more like a wall. So all we have to do now is take this socket, make a new material for this, drag it over to a slightly yellowish tone, and well, that's pretty much it. Now all we have to do is texture this cabinet and texture this part as well, and then we're going to use some assets to populate this entire area because it still looks quite empty. Now let's go over to this side, right over here. Ctrl-Shift-T and give it marble 6, which is the black marble. A, U, Q projection, and let's go into the UV editor mode. Select all of this, scale it up just a little bit, and we go into the shader editor back again and change the displacement to 0.01. Normal map, 0.1. Select this part, Ctrl-R, let's add a loop cut right over here, bring it upwards. Then let's select this entire line by holding Ctrl, E, bring it outwards just a little bit. Alright, so I am looking at this render right now and there are a couple of things that I really do not like and we are going to change that. So first of all, the texture of the cabinets right over here is not to my liking. We are going to change that later on in this video. But another thing that's even more annoying is the fact that this background is very empty and it doesn't seem very real because of it. So what we are going to do is we're going to add a little hanger with some of those spatulas hanging from it, and this will make the render look a bit more full and a bit more real. And that's what we're going to do right now. So there's a couple of things that we're going to change. So look over here. We've got a place where you can cook, but there's nothing to suck in the steam and the air that's coming from the cooking, and it will basically just make our cabinets very moldy and rotten, and that is not what we want. Another thing that I really do not like is the fact that this is too big, so we're going to have to scale that down, and we're also going to populate it with some assets later on that we made earlier before. Now here's the deal. We are going to model some more assets in order to make this look good. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So I'm going to bring in a reference image first to make the spatula. So right over here, image, reference, and I will place the reference on Patreon as well so you have it. It's right over here, Alt-R, bring it upwards, click on 7. Let's add a cube. Let's bring this upwards, scale it down, SX, and this should be good to go. Now all we have to do is take this part, press on 3, click on 7, E, and let's extrude this and only scale it on the X axis whenever we go. So like this, SX, bring it over here, E and S, and start over here, SX, E, SX, E, like this, E, SX. So now that looks like that, and we've got this part pretty much done. I'm going to take this as well, E, and bring it upwards, E and SX. Make sure to follow this entire reference like so. E, SX, E, SX, E, SX. This is pretty simple stuff, guys. You should be able to follow this along quite easily. SX, and now it looks like this. So I'm going to add a subdivision by pressing Ctrl 3, and now it looks like this. And all we have to do is press Alt-T and make sure that we have enough geometry to make these holes. So I'm going to add a couple of loop cuts right over here until we get something that looks like the shape of that hole. So we've got one right over here, we've got one right over here, right over here, this one as well. And make sure to select it like so, so we're actually getting the back side as well. Like this, like this, like this. Select everything where there's a hole. Maybe this part as well. X, delete the faces, and now it looks like this. Select the entire edge, so go click on 2 and select this with edge select mode. And then we're going in the search menu, bridge edge loops, and make sure that we've got the entire bridge edge loops for all of these parts, so that it's closed off in the middle. This is a bit too thick, so I'm going to scale this down until it's thin enough. Then I will take this entire part in Alt-C, select all of this, Ctrl plus, Alt-S, and make sure that this part is just a little bit bigger than this part. And the only thing left to do is to make this hole right here. I'm going to place a loop cut right over here, and I'm going to place 2 right over there. Click on Alt-C and make sure that we have a selection that encompasses the entire circle. So something like this, and this part as well. Right mouse click, loop tools, circle, and now we've got a circle right there. It's not the best circle. The reason for it is that we have to apply the scale. Control A, apply the scale, loop tools, circle, and now it's a circle. So let's scale this down, and G and Y, let's make sure that it's somewhat in the location that we think it should be located at. And I will delete it, all the faces, then take all of this and once again bridge these edge loops. And as you can see, we now got our circle here as well, and then bring some edges in the middle to support this entire structure. And now it looks like this, pretty good if you ask me. Another thing that we could do is maybe select all of this, Alt-C, click on 3, take all of this, G and Z using proportional editing, like so. Let's scale this outwards, and then we get that shape that is going on with the spatula. So I'm going to place this over to the side, and all we have to do now is make 1 or 2 more of those assets, and I'm going to make a big spoon that looks the same like this. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm going into this object, because I don't want to do any extra work than is necessary. Press Alt-C, take all of this and copy it. Shift-D, X, bring it over towards this side, right over there. And now I will make it its own collection by pressing P, selection, and now this will be its own geometry. So let's go over into this object, and right now it is open on this side, and I will make the spoon starting from here. So press on 7. I'm just going to interpret this in the way that I think it should look. So SY, SX, maybe that's a bit too heavy, SX, something like so, SY, SX, EY, EY, SX, EY, SX. Maybe bring it backwards just a little bit. But the inside should be going downwards just a little bit. So we'll select only these 3, press on proportional editing and bring this down. And now it's a bit more of a spoon shape. You can also fill this end up, grid fill, like so. And now we've got a spoon as well. So G and X, bring it over there. All that's left to do is to take this part once again. So let's take it from this one. Alt-C, 7, take all of this, Control plus, Shift-D, X, bring it over here. And I'm going to make one of those little soup scooping spoons, you know what I mean? So I'm going to take this, press P, separate the selection. Let's go over here. And now all we have to do is select this, click on 3, E and bring it down, just like so. Rotate it. E once again. Now Shift A, let's bring in a UV sphere. It's going to be right over here. I'm going to bring it to the side that I think is going to be a bit more correct. Let's select the entire top part, like this, Control plus, delete this, and now we've got this part. So let's select it using L, G and Y, bring it towards this side, bring it upwards. And now all we need to do is connect this. So it should have the same amount of edges, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I'm going to do that right over here. I will place a loop cut over there. I will place a loop cut right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's 4 edges, and this one should have a bit more. Now I'm going to click L on this, E and S, scale it inwards just a little bit. So now it has a bit more geometry, like so, as you can see. And we can take all of this and connect it to that. So the first thing I'm going to do is take these edges, connect them with those, bridge edge loops. Then I will take those edges, connect them with those, bridge edge loops. Now select this entire part and press F. And do the same for this. Let's add a supporting loop cut right over there. And I think for the distance that we're going to be using this for, this will be fine. It's not the best, but it's also not the worst. And what we can also do is select this entire part right here, R and X, and make sure that it's a bit more located like this. It's not the best soup scooping spoon, but we're going to use it in the background, which is going to be in bokeh the entire time, and I'm not going to waste my time. Let's use all of this in order to place it on the background of our kitchen. So let's give this a collection, G and Y, RX 90, RY 180, like this. Scale it down, bring it right over here. And it should be hanging on a place where I think the wall is too empty. And that should be right over here. I'm going to select this, Shift A, cursor to selected, bring in a mesh, namely a cube. Bring it right over there, GZ, GX, and this is going to be the place where it's going to be hanging from. Doesn't have to be too big. Now all we have to do is take all of this, R and X, make sure that it is hanging from this side. Maybe we could add some hangers right over here. That would make a bit more sense. So let's go over here, let's add a mesh circle, let's scale it down. RX 90, see what it looks like, bring it forwards. Go into edit mode, press on 1, E and Y, let's bring this outwards. Let's do RX minus 45, E and Z, let's bring this upwards. RX minus 45, scale it inwards just a little bit and give this a subdivision surface modifier as well. So it looks like this. Now we can fill this up. So let's do a grid fill once again, and maybe we can scale this down just a little bit more. It's a bit too big, so I'm going to scale it down, take this entire part, make sure it's sticking out, and take this E and Y, bring it closer to the wall, like this. Now let's select this and copy it over towards this side, this side. Now this part is a bit too big. So I'm going to scale this on the X-axis, bring this over towards this side, and now it makes more sense composition-wise. I'm going to select all of this, including the water faucet, G and X, and bring this towards this side as well. And there could be a place for the steam to be removed. So I'm going to take this, let's add a cube, bring it over there. Let's take the underside, E, let's scale this outwards like so. Take the underside, E and S, bring this down like so, G and Z, press I, inset. Let's make this go upwards just a little bit. It's not going to be noticeable, I think. No, not really noticeable. And add a couple of buttons. So maybe add a cylinder right over there. RX 90, SY. Scale it inwards. We could take all of this, delete it. Take this entire edge, grid fill. And maybe we can take this entire part, like so, and press I, and have it come outwards just a little bit. Give it a small subdivision surface modifier and make some supporting edge loops around the side for this. And now we've got a little button, duplicate it, make sure it's rotated just a little bit. I think this is already a bit better. It's not entirely there yet, but we are getting to a place where I'm starting to feel content with what we are making. So all we have to do now is finish the texturing process and then add some more assets to the background, and then the kitchen will be done. So let's first go over here, add the material to this, and I'm going to select the brushed metal. And you know what? Maybe I'm going to do the same for these. So let's copy the material over. Then take this part and select the same material that we've got over here. Copy material to select it. And maybe this can be the brush metal as well. So let's copy the material to select it. And then we've got this entire part done. Now we maybe need a black part for this. And I think the black plastic that we used for the blender is going to be fine. So I'm going to type black plastic right over here. Then select these buttons and copy the material over to this as well. But I think it's a bit too black. So I'm actually going to take this and make it the brushed metal material as well. Might not be that noticeable. So I'm going to select this, Ctrl J, let's make sure they're all together, and make a new copy out of this. Let's go over here and change the color of this just a little bit. I'm going into this color ramp and make it a bit darker. See what it looks like? Something like this. So I just made a quick render of this and I was still not happy with the way the cabinets looked. So I'm going to change that right now. So I will select the cabinet right over here, as you can see, and I'm going to press Ctrl Shift T right on this, and I will bring in the wood 58 texture. You can get it on Polyhaven once again. Now that looks pretty fine to me, but there's a couple of things I want to change. In the shader editor, I'm going to change the displacement to 0.01. And this should remove some of the hard edges that we've created using this displacement. The normal map can also be decreased a little bit to 0.23. And now we have those light looking cabinets that I think look pretty fine as well. And now I'm going back in an old render that we made previously in another part of this course. And I'm going to bring in the glasses that we made. So right now I'm back in my kitchen scene. I'm going to press Ctrl V and bring in the glasses. And they are a bit big, so I'm going to have to scale them down, obviously. Let's have it all sit on this little stand. So now let's copy this glass, for example, and bring this upwards, and let's give it a different color. So copy the texture, take this and make it red, for example. See, make sure that it is on the right side of the table, like so. We can also maybe take this plate and bring it over there. So duplicate it and set it on this stand. Let's duplicate it, maybe make it a bit bigger, scale it on a Z axis so it looks a little bit different. Bring it over there, copy the texture, blue. We can also take this glass, Shift D, bring it forward and set it on the table. Why not? So that's the end of this kitchen tutorial, and we are going to make a smoothie in the next one because we want that to be the focal point of this entire render. That's why we are making this in the first place, to show the blenders are able to make smoothies. So that's how you create a kitchen in Blender the easy way. This course cost a lot of time to make, so I'd appreciate it if you click on that subscribe button to receive more value in the future. And I'll see you in the next video.